Hi, I'm Dr. Hank, and today we are going to talk about goal setting. So, we are going to learn why we need to develop new habits. We're going to talk about what is a habit, how do we change them, how setting goals helps us to develop new habits. First of all, how do we even set goals, or what does that look like? And then you guys can kind of think about at the end of the day one personal goal that you'd like to set for yourself. So, why do we need new habits? Our old habits do not support our new goals. If we want different results, then we have to kind of change the way that we do things. Losing weight requires that we change habits and do things differently than what's happened in the past. A lot of patients talk to me about, eating habits that they've had in the past that just don't quite fit with bariatric surgery, the process before surgery, after surgery. So as you go through this process, you will be learning a lot of new tips and tricks, and we're going to be challenging some of your old habits and helping you start developing new ones. Both surgical and medical options necessitate that we change what we're doing, and especially as we kind of go through this process, the more that you're able to change as you go along over time, the better off you'll be and the more successful you'll be longer term. So this is kind of why we need to develop new habits. If what we're doing for a while isn't quite working to get us to where we want to be, whether it's with weight loss or exercise goals or things like that, then we have to do something differently. So what is a habit? Well, it's something that is settled, it's regular, it's a tendency that we have, and it's hard to give up. It's something that's kind of ingrained in us. A lot of times patients will share the one of, well, my family used to say you can't leave the table until you finish everything that's on your plate. So as an adult, sometimes we're finishing the food on our plate even if we're not physically hungry, and it takes us a second to realize, oh wait, that's an old habit that came about from somebody else's rules. It's not getting me to the goal that I want, so now let me develop a new rule or a new habit. A habit is kind of an acquired behavior that you have over time, and you follow that regularly. It's almost as if it's involuntary. Sometimes our habits are so ingrained, we just do it and we don't even have to think about it. A habit is also a usual way of behaving. So it's something that a person does that's repeated over time. In some ways you can think about it like if you can drive a stick shift. That's something that when you're first learning, it is very intentional. You have to be very mindful about it. And then over time, you're shifting gears, you're not thinking about it, it just becomes a habit. A lot of times our habits are strategies that our brains have come up with that they use to help us be efficient, on time, keeping it simple. We are very busy people. We have a lot going on in our life, and if we had to think about every little behavior we did every time, we'd never get anything done. So habits can be helpful, but if they're unhealthy or they're no longer reaching the goals that we have for ourselves, that's the point that we need to change them. So how do we change them? The first thing is start small. We're going to change one behavior at a time. As you meet with the dietitian, you'll have a couple of goals, but normally you focus on just a few small ones. You focus on one week, and then you can move to another one the next week. But really focus on taking it slow. Talk about it. Make it real. Share with your support systems. These are goals that I have. A lot of times when we speak things out loud, they become more real to us than if we just have them in our head. Or writing them down. That's another way to make things more real. Don't beat yourself up. If you are trying to change a habit and you kind of mess up or you slip up, that's normal. And what it does is it gives you information to know, okay, what kind of went wrong that led to the slip up, and how can I overcome those barriers or do something a little different next time to prevent those issues from happening. So anytime you slip up, use it as information of how to move forward, of how to prevent any other slip ups. Remember, change takes time. A lot of patients have heard it takes like 21 days to establish a new habit. It's more like 66 on average. So you have got to do things over and over and over again for it to become a habit. If you think about things that rules that people have developed over time, such as the one of, parents saying you have to finish all of your food on your plate. Well, you grew up with that probably for 16, 18 years, maybe even more. And so you're not going to change habits like that or rules that your brain has in place overnight. It's going to take a lot of time and effort to do that. So take it slow. Don't beat yourself up if it takes a little longer than you thought, and just do one thing at a time. Really what we want you to do is use goal setting. Goal setting is going to help you change your habits. It's going to help those habits stick, and it's going to kind of give you a way to kind of personally monitor and keep yourself accountable for those changes. So what is a goal? A goal is just simply something that you're trying to accomplish. It is the object or aim of an action. So it's something that you want to change, something that you want to achieve, something that you want to get done. So goal setting can really help us change habits. Basically, setting goals helps us identify realistic ways of making changes. It makes us sit down and think because habits kind of become second nature. So you have to stop and think about what behaviors are getting in my way of losing weight, becoming healthier, etc. And then as you sit and you think about it, okay, well, what are realistic ways of overcoming this habit? Setting goals kind of gives us a roadmap of how to get where we want to go. It kind of gives us an action plan. It takes us from just thinking about things we need to change to thinking about how we're going to make that change. So how do we set goals? Well, one, please be realistic. A lot of times patients get so frustrated with themselves, and they really don't have to. The expectations that we set really make a difference in kind of how we feel as far as how accomplished we feel, how successful we feel. If we do not set realistic goals, we can overwhelm ourselves. We can feel that sense of failure if we don't accomplish it. So set something that is going to be realistic for you, that challenges you slightly, but you can also achieve. Think about long-term and short-term goals. So you can think of a long-term goal, let's say, sustained weight loss or a particular amount of weight loss, and break that into smaller goals. So what does that mean as far as exercise? Okay, so maybe an end goal is to exercise 4 to 5 days a week, but in the short term, maybe we're talking 1 to 2 days a week. So you can kind of see how you break those long-term goals down to short-term goals, and it's about really taking, those small steps to get to the long-term goal. Make a plan. You can write this out. You can put it somewhere where you're going to see it every day, whether it's on your bathroom mirror or the fridge, or simply talking to your support system. Okay, here's the plan. Here's my long-term goals. Here's the short-term goals I'm going to use to get there. The more that you can see it every day and remind yourself of it, the better. And the more that your support system can help you with those goals, the better off you are. And hey, they might jump on board as well. Again, change one behavior at a time. Use that support system, involve a buddy. I always say I use my husband to go to the gym. The weeks that he goes on a business trip, I'm awful about it. So I need that accountability. I need somebody saying, hey, are you ready to go? Let's go. So if that's something that's helpful for you, by all means, use that support. Stay the course. If you slip off track, that's cool. Try again. We're humans. We make mistakes. We have busy lives. We don't always meet our goals. So just because you slip up doesn't mean you can't get right back on track. And again, setting SMART goals. That's something that maybe you've talked about with the dietitian, that we talk about with you. But really, SMART goals, we'll talk a little bit later about breaking that acronym down to help you out. But a lot of it's about being realistic, being attainable, things like that. So, when we talk about being realistic, goals that are too easy are not going to push you. You're not going to move past kind of where you're at now. So you might not put in as much effort, or you might not achieve as much as you want. Goals that are too difficult, well, they're going to lead you to being frustrated. They're going to kind of, decrease your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and decrease your performance. So we got to be right in the middle. With the short-term and long-term goals, the short-term goals are going to help you provide feedback. Am I getting closer to my long-term goal, or am I moving farther away from it? It can be motivational. It helps us say, okay, I'm doing it. I'm progressing. And also it allows us to focus on achievements in smaller increments, like I mentioned before. Making the plan that will stick, be specific, realistic, write it down, post it where you can remember, like I mentioned before. The more reminders you have, even if it's a post-it on your office computer that says, hey, don't forget your goal, anything that you can see to remind you. Your phone nowadays can give you reminders. Those reminders are going to be helpful throughout this process. Changing one behavior at a time, like I mentioned, we are replacing a lot of different unhealthy behaviors as you go through this process. But all you have to do is one at a time. Many people run into problems if they're trying to do too much at once. They don't get anything done. As a new healthy behavior kind of starts to be a habit for you, let's say, all right, my goal was to go to the gym 2 to 3 days a week for 30 minutes. Nailed it. Got it. Maybe now I switch to eating habits. Let me take a look at some of the problematic eating habits that I have. Let me try to work on eliminating soda or whatever those goals are that you're working on. Involving a buddy, like I mentioned, this could be a coworker, family, friend, heck, even a pet. If you have a dog, get out, walk the dog. It keeps you motivated, keeps you going, makes you feel good to be kind of sharing that experience with someone. Consider joining a support group. So I hadn't mentioned support groups before. We have a support group. If you're interested in that, contact our office for more information. But the more that you have somebody to share in your struggle, you realize that you're not alone in struggling. And the more that you have somebody to share in your accomplishments, the more you have something to celebrate and someone to celebrate it with. So buddies are really important in the process. Asking for support. So sometimes this is hard. A lot of times I'll ask patients, who's your social support? And they'll kind of give me this laundry list of, well, my mom, my sister, my daughters, friends, whatever. And then when it comes to actually using that support, that's a different story. So throughout this process, bariatric surgery is one where you can use that support. Let them know how to help. Let them know what you need from them. Work together with this process. The more that you have people on your side that, again, are sharing in your struggles, they're sharing in your accomplishments, the more successful you are going to be. If you feel overwhelmed about meeting your goals, talk to us here. So, we have dietitians that can talk with you about food goals, exercise goals. Mental health-wise, if you feel like you're having a hard time reaching any goal, maybe there's a lack of motivation or there's not enough confidence. Those are all great goals for therapy. So again, patients sometimes think you have to have a significant mental health condition or disorder to seek a therapist, and that's not true. Even if you want some help setting goals, reaching goals, therapy is great for that. So if you are interested in seeking mental health therapy to talk about goals and keeping those, let us know. I can help you kind of facilitate that process, and we can get you connected with that kind of support. So if our goals aren't smart, our habits don't change. You can kind of take a look at your little cartoon there on the form, but it's kind of like, each year we kind of set these resolutions. We kind of had this broad resolution, and we say, well, when are you going to do it? I don't know. I guess I'll lose some weight. How much? I don't know. So if we're not specific and we're not smart about setting goals, we kind of just have these mythical goals out there, thoughts that we have, but they don't ever turn into anything. So what is a SMART goal? We're talking about making a goal that's specific. So we're talking about something like, I'm going to go to the gym 2 days a week for 30 minutes at a time. It's measurable because I can measure whether or not I achieve that. It's attainable. So for me, if I don't currently work out, I'm going to set that 2 day a week, 30-minute mark. I feel like I can accomplish that, but it's going to push me harder than what I'm now. And then once I achieve that, maybe I up it a little bit. But it's attainable. I can reach it. It's relevant, so make sure that you're setting goals that are relevant to what you want to achieve long term. And time-bound. Give yourself a time frame. A lot of times we'll set kind of this arbitrary, well, I'll start it Monday. Monday rolls around, we don't quite start it, and so give yourself a specific window. I'm going to go 2 days a week for 30 minutes at a time next week, Monday through Sunday. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we say a SMART goal, kind of making your goals in this way. It allows you to be more concrete about them and allows you to be more successful long term because you'll find that these, if you set these, they're attainable. You really can build up your confidence. You can build up feeling like your behaviors are being effective at getting you closer to what you want to achieve, and that will help you keep perpetuating new goals and making new accomplishments. Make it personal. So pick a habit that you want to change. Other people may have ideas about things you should change, but if it's not personal to you, you're not going to want to work on it. So make it personal for you. Set a behavioral goal for the habit, whatever you're wanting to change. Again, making a SMART goal, breaking it down. And, as you think about larger goals, see if there's ways to break it down. Sometimes patients get frustrated. They say, well, I didn't meet this goal. And it turns out maybe that goal is more longer term, and they just didn't quite break it down enough. So anytime you have a goal, think about, are there smaller steps that I need to set as goals before I can make it that far? That will kind of also help alleviate any frustrations or concerns that patients feel when they're not quite reaching goals. So common habits to change or develop. We see kind of the full range here. Sometimes patients need to work on smoking cessation, reducing soda, reducing caffeine. Sometimes it's healthier eating patterns like the dietitians talk with you about, structuring your eating. Other patients have goals around decreasing portion size, trying to get in the gym a little more, doing a little more walking, getting more sleep. or increasing water. So for every patient, goals are very different. We have certain ideas about what you should accomplish before you can get to surgery because of things that you need to change for us. But also you can kind of think about your own personal goals and things that you want to change. It doesn't even have to be related to exercise or food. If you have other personal goals in your life, you can treat them the exact same way. So now that we've talked about some common goals that patients set, we've talked about how to set SMART goals, I want you to take a few minutes, go ahead and write down somewhere on a piece of paper some goals that you would like to work on. In particular, pick one goal for this coming week. Kind of follow the SMART goal guideline that we talked about that you have in your PowerPoint, and just kind of work through that. So make sure that you're picking a goal that's attainable, that's measurable, that's realistic, that you feel like you can meet, but also that challenges you in a way that you're going to push yourself a little, but not to the point that you feel overwhelmed. So go ahead, make your goal, work on that, and you can use the list that's up here on the screen, or you can set your own personal goal like we already talked about. If you have any questions or concerns at all as you go through this process, please reach out to our office. I'm more than happy to talk to patients about any concerns that they have. As you work with the dietitians throughout the process, they're going to help you set some of these SMART goals. But if at any point you don't know what to do or you're stuck with a goal, reach out to us because we're there and we want to support you.